of the Heinz College of Carnegie Mellon University, is a distinguished service professor and director of Heinz College, Washington, D.C. And tonight it's my great pleasure to introduce to you our distinguished panel of experts. First, let me introduce on my immediate left, Lee Brandstetter, who received his PhD in economics from Harvard, taught at Dartmouth, University of California, Davis, and Columbia Business School, where he served as director of the International Business Program. He joined Carnegie Mellon University in 2006 and holds a joint appointment in the Heinz College and the Department of Social and Decision Services. Professor Brandstetter conducts research in the fields of international economics and industrial organization with a regional emphasis on Asia. He has served as a consultant to the U.S. Department of Commerce, the OECD Science and Technology Directorate, the World Intellectual Property Organization, and the World Bank. To Dr. Brandstetter's left is Jendai Frazier. Dr. Frazier is known worldwide as a policy leader and expert on African affairs. She joined the faculty at CMU this year as a distinguished public service professor with joint appointments in the Department of Social and Decision Sciences and the Heinz College's School of Public Policy and Management. She is the director of Carnegie Mellon's new Center for International Politics and Innovation. She is particularly interested in using technology and innovative solutions to address development and governance issues in Africa. Ambassador Frazier was the leading architect of U.S.-Africa policy for nearly a decade. In 2001, she became the Special Assistant to the President of the United States and Senior Director for African Affairs at the National Security Council. In 2004, she was named U.S. Ambassador to South Africa. In 2005, until January of this year, she served as a U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs. During Jendai's government service, U.S. assistance to Africa quadrupled, reaching $6.7 billion last year. Dr. Frazier is widely credited for the administration's policies for ending the wars in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Burundi. She was also instrumental in resolving the crisis following Kenya's 2007 presidential election. Dr. Frazier received her PhD degree in political science from Stanford University. On my immediate right is Marvin Goodfriend, professor of economics and chair of the Galiot Center for Public Policy at the Tepper School of Business at CMU. He has his PhD in economics from Boston University and served as a senior vice president and policy advisor at the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond from 1993. Excuse me. That's a terrible mistake. He got his PhD from Brown University, and I'm sure if there are any alumni in the room, I deeply apologize for that. Excuse me. Don't read well. He served as senior vice president and policy advisor to the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond from 1993 to 2005. He was the principal monetary policy advisor to the bank president and regularly accompanied him to meetings of the Open Market Committee at the Federal Reserve Board in Washington, D.C. 1984 to 1985, he served as senior staff economist for the President's Council of Economic Advisors at the White House. He served as a visiting professor at many places, including the Graduate School of Business at the University of Chicago. He's been a visiting scholar for the Board of Governors at the Federal Reserve System, with the European Central Bank, with the International Monetary Fund, with the Federal Reserve Banks of Atlanta, Cleveland, Kansas City, and New York. Dr. Goodfriend is a member of the Economic Advisory Panel of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York and a research associate for the National Bureau of Economic Research. And to his right is someone who joins us from San Francisco this evening. We're very pleased that he was able to travel this distance to be with us. Mr. Saad Hafs. Gabriel Saad Hafs is currently a portfolio manager focusing on macro investing at the Farallon Capital Management. In addition to his portfolio responsibilities, he's also responsible for covering tail risks for the whole fund. Prior to joining Farallon, he was chief portfolio strategist at Northern Investment Management. He spent 8 years at J.P. Morgan, initially as a foreign exchange and fixed income strategist, and then as a proprietary trader with the Global Currencies and Commodities Group. Previously, he served as Director of Strategic Planning at Grupo Televisa, the largest media group in the Spanish-speaking world. He has his Bachelor of Science in Economics from the Instituto Tecnológico Autónomo de Mexico and his MA and PhD in Economics from Harvard. So I think you can agree with me that we are very fortunate this evening to have a very distinguished panel of experts to address the issues that are going to be coming up at the summit in Pittsburgh. You know, the G20 came into existence about a decade ago in the aftermath of the Asian financial crisis. It became apparent that the G8 needed to be expanded to include other countries in order to more adequately represent the global economy. The G20 is comprised of the largest economies in the world, representing both long-established as well as more recently emerging economies. For the past 10 years, the finance ministers and central bankers have met to address financial and monetary issues. The current global financial crisis has elevated these meetings and heightened the awareness and the interest of these meetings around the world. The upcoming summit meeting in Pittsburgh will focus the world's attention on the performance of fiscal and monetary policies, on regulation of international financial institutions, on the challenges faced by developing countries, and also, of course, on international trade negotiations. Now we are going to have remarks made by each one of the panelists, and after we have the remarks from the panelists, we'll have time for questions, and at that time we'll ask those individuals to come up to the microphones in the front of the room on either side to ask their questions. Let me now turn it over to Dr. Goodfriend.